Okay, can I get a motion to return to open session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Here.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Renee, Corey,
Here.
Anna,
Is that roll call?
Yes.
Return to open.
Return to open.
That's okay.
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you. So again, welcome everyone to the Woodland Community Consolidated Board meeting for July 22nd, 2021. Roll call vote.
Carla,
Here.
Joe,
Here.
Lizzie,
Here.
Renee, Corey,
Here.
Anna,
Here.
Brianna.
Present.
We have quorum.
Okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Whatever you want. Okay, so I apologize, I got a little off. We actually have a public hearing on the agenda for e-learning.
Right, I think you did the approval of the agenda.
Right. No, I just want to kind of run down the agenda for you guys before we approve it. We have e-learning public hearing, the superintendent showcase, and then moving on to our regular agenda of citizen statements, following consent agenda, action items, and so on and so forth. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Renee, Corey,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Carla.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, so we'll begin with the e-learning public hearing. Let the record reflect that this is the e-learning hearing conducted by the Board of Education, Woodland Community Consolidated School District Number 50, Lake County, Illinois, pursuant to Section 17-1 of the School Code. For the record, the draft e-learning plan was available to the public for inspection for 10 days prior to any final action. On July 12, 2021, notice was published in the Daily Herald of tonight's public hearing and of the availability. On July 12, 2021, I think that's a repeat, I apologize, of the draft e-learning plan for public inspection. Further notice of tonight's hearing and the availability of the draft e-learning plan for inspection was posted on the district's website and placed on public display in the district's office for 10 days. At this time, does the administration wish to make any comments?
Yes, I do.
Okay, do you want to state your name for the record, please?
Yes, I'm Dr. Victoria Kiefer, Assistant Director of Teaching and Learning.
Okay, and I'll move out of your way.
Thank you so much. So good evening, Board of Education. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Before I start, I just want to thank and commend the committee of about 38 to 40 people who put this together. It consisted of parents, staff, parapros. We had staff from all sorts of different monolingual, dual language, special ed. We had parents who have students in the special ed program. We had parents of students who in the monolingual program and dual language program, and parents who also have students with 504s. So we had a lot of different voices on our committee. So just a brief overview, we have a new Illinois school code. This is about 1.5 to 2 years old, which basically allows school districts to use e-learning days instead of adding on days at the end of the school year. It's very different from remote learning, something that we've been used to for the past year and a half. We have to follow school code now when it comes to students learning from home, and this particular Illinois school code has a list of requirements that we now have to meet. The benefit of this basically is to provide continuity of instruction in the curriculum, and it does allow students who are receiving 504 services and IEP services to continue those services during that e-learning day. So there's a laundry list of things we have to make sure that we meet, but this is really just a brief overview. In the big picture, I'm not going to read everything out loud to you, but basically it really allows a lot of flexibility for staff, students, and families. Because this is such an emergency situation, we have to be flexible in our delivery, make sure we have enough technology and non-electronic resources for students and families who may not have that. We need to make sure we meet the needs of all students. And professional development really isn't for staff, it's for students and also for families as well too. So I know you can't tell from this, but we also, I talked to 160 students in grades 1 through grade 8. And I know you can't tell, but their voices are coming out loud and clear in this particular graphic. They really want a balance of independent time and also a time for face-to-face connection with their teachers during the school day, so we built in staff office hours. They wanted to make sure they had a very clear start time and end time, and they wanted to make sure they weren't sitting behind the computer all day. They want to make sure they have some off computer time and also on computer time. So we had a lot of questions from staff and families, and students, of course, too, about this as we developed this over the course of about 3 months. So I'm just going to read a couple of them. So the biggest question I get is, are e-learning days automatic if there's 10 feet of snow? The answer is no, not at all. It's not going to be automatic. It really depends on when the snowstorm comes in. It depends on what time of year it hits us. If we dismiss students on a Friday, we have a snow day or emergency day on a Monday, we may not call an e-learning day. So it's not really an automatic. The next question is, if we have 2 or 3 weather days in a row in which class could be canceled, or will all 3 days be e-learning days? Not at all. We may have school canceled and then the next day being e-learning day. The next one I get a lot is, I have a student who's an IEP, how will their IEP be met? How will the accommodations be met? That really is up to the case manager to work very closely with support services and the classroom teacher and the families and students to make sure all those needs are being met for that particular day. So that's just a quick overview of FAQs. We will add an FAQ question section to the learning plan. We wanted to make sure this was approved first before we add that in to make sure our information is aligned and correct. And I am available for any questions.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
So, at this time, board members, do you have any questions?
I have a few.
Okay. So, Anna, what we'll do, we'll let you ask a question, and then we'll go around and then give
Okay.
everybody the opportunity, okay? So go ahead and start with your first question.
Is my microphone on? I can't tell.
You can check right there.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, one thing, it's really kind of more of a comment about kids with IEPs and 504s. This is something that in our family we learned during remote learning, that it's really hard for a case manager to all of a sudden kind of rework a kid's IEP to be to work for remote learning. So I really liked what we did as far as having the remote learning IEP or plan for the kids last year. I guess the question is the expectation that those changes are going to be made on the fly when we have an e-learning day, or will they be a plan in place for each kid that will be used on e-learning days?
That's a great question. So obviously it's not feasible to change the actual IEP plan on the fly, but I think it's important that the case managers, when we start school in August, that they're aware of this e-learning plan, that they know all their students and their needs, and to work with service providers, classroom teachers, whoever is part of their team, to make sure things are in place to make, when the e-learning day does come up, they're ready ahead of time, so we're not scrambling at the last minute. So that could mean providing maybe more non-electronic materials, make sure they have school supplies, make sure they have what they need. That's a great question. Thank you.
Okay, other questions, board members?
I have one, and it's really obvious, and I already know the answer, but I know that some folks are thinking this is remote learning. So can you just explain the difference between e-learning and remote learning?
Right, okay, so e-learning, the term e-learning is used by the state of Illinois to refer to students who are learning at home on those emergency weather-related days. Remote learning is more long-term, where we can ahead of time provide technology and all the things they need for long-term remote learning. This is an emergency day that we may or may not get heads up on, depends, on the situation. So those are two very different things.
Thank you.
Now, just to follow up on the question about the IEP and how to accommodate in situations. So in the instance where you know that, for instance, a storm is coming, then you would be able to send that student home with the appropriate material. But if say a system came in overnight, then that you wouldn't have the opportunity to provide that student. Is it
Right,
correct?
exactly. Ideally, if we knew ahead of time, we'd make sure we have everything in place and we have things for students. If we don't have that heads up, the e-learning plan, our e-learning plan has those requirements by the state of Illinois to make sure we build in flexibility. So if students don't have what they need, they have 2 days in which to meet with a teacher, get what they need, and then turn their work in.
Okay. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, excellent plan. I'm looking through the rest of it too. For the professional development, can you talk a little about what's the timeline on that? Because I see in-service days beginning of school year, great, but then it's August, and then what happens if it's not until December when we have to use it?
Right, exactly. So what I've done is I've created kind of behind the scenes a professional development plan for every month for all the different schools.
Nice.
So my goal is to meet with the principals in mid-August
Okay.
and kind of sit down and find out from them, when can you talk about with staff e-learning plan? We can walk them through it. I can do webinars. I can do some video modules. Any way we can get information out to staff to get them ready. In addition, of course, to communicating with parents as well, too. Then we have monthly SIP days and Teacher Institute days built
Okay.
in, where we're going to give staff time to put together those emergency plans, make sure kids have what they need and students have what they need as well, too. So that's going to be built into the professional development plan for staff.
The whole, yeah. Because I was thinking what if we learn it in August and oh, it's October 31st and there's a snow day again or something like that.
Right, right, exactly.
Other questions, board members? Anything further?
I have more questions if
Okay.
somebody else does. I noticed there's no SEL minutes beyond pre-K, I think, or something. Is that right, or why is that?
Yeah. That's something that we could incorporate. That really is something that didn't come in conversation with our committee. We were really focused on the main subject areas of SLA, English language arts, Spanish language arts, math, and science. Because we only have 5 hours in which to do this between screen time and off-screen time, not that we don't think it's important, but we had a hard time kind of fitting this in.
I just think the days when you're doing e-learning, especially for kids with disabilities, is a really important day to have, to talk about social emotional learning, because it's a time that can be really frustrating for kids, like kids with anxiety, depression, things like that. When your routines are different, or autism, when your routines are different, it's really hard to adapt and adjust. And another comment that I had was about the technology, that sometimes I think we ask kids to do things that we're not sure they know how to do with technology, and that can be really kind of anxiety inducing too. And so I just wondered, I think we've talked a lot about focusing on social emotional learning, and I think that these e-learning days are days that for a lot of kids are just fraught with kind of frustrations, difficulties, challenges. So that's why I ask.
Two great questions. To answer your second part of your question, built into training is not only training for staff and parents, but also for students too. So we're going to pick some times during the school year to make sure students know how to use the learning management systems, they know how to enter into Clever, they know how to use a Chromebook. That's already built into our training plan for students, to make sure that they're comfortable with it. And also, the office hours, that's that face-to-face time that students have with their teachers. So we're hoping that could be, make sure that you're safe, do you have what you need, do you have any questions, kind of connect with them on a different level. And they can do that twice a day. But I think the important thing that this doesn't show is they can contact their teacher anytime during the day to get that connection, get their questions answered.
Anything further?
Just one more, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead and ask your
No,
questions,
it's a good
please.
question.
There was talk about, the resource page for parents that explains to them how the different learning management systems work, which is great, fantastic. But I was wondering, is there any possibility of doing like either a Zoom training or some live events for parents? Because I feel like it's different when you just are going onto a web page looking for what you need versus you show up and you realize that, like, hey, a lot of parents don't really know where to find stuff in Schoology or,
Exactly. That actually was a question that came up from our own technology integration specialists, Angela Walker and Kathy Bobowski. They have a lot of fantastic ideas to connect with parents, whether through like a live Facebook session or a webinar, coming in person if they wanted to make sure they walk through the different LMS systems, as well as having on-demand videos that they can watch anytime they want to. So that's already in the works.
Okay, awesome.
Lots of options.
You had every answer to
We
every
tried.
question. I appreciate
But you've got really great questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, and then we actually do have comments from the public. Did we hear anything back?
Not regarding this.
Right. Yeah, nothing for e-learning, the public
No.
hearing piece. Okay. So are there any further questions or discussions?
No, I just want to say that I want to commend Dr. Kiefer and the committee. Their work has been, this is something that came out of the pandemic that would have taken us years to do. And it really taught us that it's something we could do sooner rather than later. This was not on our playbook for at least a couple more years. So Vicki, and getting student voice was excellent. Getting all the different pieces together was not an easy feat. I've looked at dozens and dozens of these e-learning plans, and I recommend that Vicki and her team take this and bring this to a conference or bring this somewhere where other people can see the detail that you've put into this is outstanding. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Uh-oh, one more
I
comment.
do too. I'm going to miss snow days, but this is great. Thank you for your hard
You're
work.
welcome.
Okay, anything further? Okay, so hearing nothing further, can I get a motion to close the public hearing for the e-learning plan?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, or actually it could be a voice vote. All in favor, say
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, please consider the public hearing closed. We'll move forward with the superintendent showcase from Dr. Casey. She will present on the strategic plan goals for 2021, 2022. And I'll move over there.
I wanted to take my seat.
Oh, no, it's
I'm going to stand up anyways.
Oh, wait 1 second until Laura gets that up. Okay, thank you. So tonight, I'm going to just talk a little bit about our strategic plan goals for this year. I know the board is going to be meeting in September and talking about our strategic plan, but I wanted to just review tonight some things for where we're at right now. As you know, the next slide, just some reminders, our mission and vision has not changed. This, we're still working together for our children to create creators, thinkers, and leaders, and we will continue to do that. Next, please. So here's our timeline. This, just a reminder, this strategic plan was created with about 100 people. I know several of you were involved, several of you were there. Again, students, parents, community members came together and made decisions about what they wanted. Is that working? Is that working? Yeah. It's not working. Came together and made decisions on what we thought was best moving forward, and then the board voted on it and came to these conclusions. Now, in the middle of all this, we had the pandemic. So last year, every 6 months at the end of the year, we gave you our updates, and we continued working on the strategic goals. We didn't stop, but some of them were different because of not being here in person all the time. So if it doesn't work, it's okay.
Hey, Lori, I'm sorry, can you speak up? It's really hard to hear you.
Sure. Is that better? Okay.
Yeah, you have.
Sure, I'll hold it right here. So, the first one is student learning, and you can see, I said, Dr. Little, when you were over there for a second, that these are something that the board is going to be talking about in September, so there may be some modifications that the board chooses, but I just wanted to tell you where we're at right now. So Mr. Wahlberg and Mr. Block are going to be leading this one, and this is where we're at this year for FY22, and that's really digging in a little bit deeper, continuing all the hard work that our teaching and learning department has done and all of the schools have done, and then developing some of those extension activities, and also looking at, I love that picture, but looking at some real-world inquiry-based, some of the STEM things that we're doing, just some real, just more real-world information for our students through current units. So they'll be working on that, and they'll also be extending what we've been doing last year because we're not done with that either. The next one is student well-being, and as we know, this year this is a big one. And so it's interesting how this came out, that this is the goal for this year. But Dr. Walls and Dr. Maychek will be investigating what are our current systems. So we've done PBIS for a long time, as you all know, but how are we integrating and not separating academic and behavioral systems? So we're trying to bring those together, and we know, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in my other report, but we know the importance of making those improvements and focusing on the social emotional needs of our students based upon our findings and how we handle this year. Finance and facilities, Mr. Boback and Mr. Fuhrer. You're aware of the projects that we've had recently, some of our solar projects, right now our roof project. There's been a lot of things going on, and they have been working with the Finance Committee, which some board members are on, to optimize our district facilities and to benefit our community and our students and our staff. So they will continue their work in this area. They'll also continue the sustainability work in this area. That's something that we used to have a sustainability committee that we're looking at, again, to see how can we continue that work. Next one is our community relations and district pride, Life in the W. As you know, everybody's starting to know Life in the W. And I have to tell you this cute story. So I was going to get a gift certificate at a restaurant, and I had on my Blowing Woodland shirt, and it had a big W on it, and this little boy kept tagging his parent, and finally he turned around and he goes, "She's from the W." And so the parent turned around, and they said, "Oh, do you work there?" And I said, "Yes, I'm the superintendent." And they're like, "You're the superintendent of the W?" And it was so cute, and the little boy was so excited, and he really, you just instantly connected, and just because of it, he was in second grade. Cutest thing, and he was in Life in the W. So it's really starting to gain momentum. This is the second part of this, but the first part of this is something that we wanted to do a little more last year. We're going to focus on it more this year, and that's the volunteer opportunities for our students. Sorry, I jumped ahead a slide. So we're going to be working within our schools. There's some things we won't be able to do with volunteer opportunities for our students because you can't have them going out to certain places, but there are some things we can do, right? You can write letters, and you can do Zoom things with things outside. So we're going to be getting creative and working on that. The last one is, again, not last one, but creating goals and developing relationships by inviting other people into our schools when it's safe. So this is a picture of, we partner with one of our local nursing homes they have people come into the classrooms. We also want to increase our presence outside of the schools. Gurney Days is one of those examples where we'll be doing that, but we want to do as much as we can so people know that we're proud of Woodland, we're here at Woodland, and we are all part of that. So that includes students, that includes board members, that includes everybody. Okay, so I know that was really quick, and I know the board will be talking about it more in September, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, or any of the leaders of the committees can answer those too.
All right. Thank you. Great presentation. Board members, are there any questions?
I just thought of one. Since this was a 5-year strategic plan and much of it was kind of sidelined with the pandemic, when that 5 years comes to an end, would we look at instead of redoing a strategic plan, kind of extending
That's entirely up to the board.
timelines?
Yeah, the board would need to have that discussion to decide. We'll start to have those discussions in September at the board retreat. Yeah. Other questions?
I just have a comment. I really like the student choice options. I think that's so important because
Can you speak in your microphone?
oh, I'm
please?
sorry.
I need
Yeah.
to remember.
Because not all kids learn the same, and there's something about giving kids a choice, whether it's, do you want to take out the garbage or unload the dishwasher, I just think it's so powerful to give kids a choice and let them feel like they have, some ownership and some say in what they're going to do, so I really like that.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. Great job, as always. Okay, we'll then turn to citizen statements. We have the list. And I know we have several here for citizen statements, so we will, Brooke, are you going to usher people into the
I
room?
don't actually have the same list, so I'm not sure who.
So if you say the name, we can do
Justin Porter,
Justin Porter?
yes.
Using her mom voice.
Okay, thank you. Did they all get a copy of the? Hi, Justin. Welcome to the board meeting. Before you get started, I just want to let Brooke know that Cynthia Porter is next. Cynthia Porter is next, okay? Okay, Justin, can you state your name and your affiliation with the district for the record, please?
Yeah, definitely. My name's Justin Porter, and I am a parent of a child who's just finished kindergarten, is just about to start first grade.
Okay, so we'll give you 2 minutes to speak tonight. You will see Mr. Bobeck. He has cards up. He'll let you know when your time is up.
Okay, I have one speaker who wanted to cede his 2 minutes to me tonight, just to make sure I could finish what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, who is that?
That's Stephen. His name is
Stephen. What's his last name?
I should know that, really.
I'm sorry, what?
Is it too distracting?
No, it's fine. Okay, go ahead and get started.
Okay. I don't know Steve's name. Apologize.
2 minutes or 4?
I guess, board, what do you say?
I think it's important information that
Okay.
be good for us to discuss. So anyway, I did come here 3 months ago. I'm not sure if everyone remembers me. I came really to ask everyone in this room to begin a dialogue regarding the neglect and the overreach we have seen since 2020 from our education and our health boards. I followed up by email, and not one person had the decency to just reach back out and have a conversation. This was disappointing. I really wanted to come here tonight, let you know that I'm on your side and really want the best for the children under your care, which I know you do as well. Really, the information that I have come to learn and have gone through during the last couple of years has been on a different awareness level. And I think a lot of my acquaintances in the other room will share the same thing. But really, I want us to open our eyes and start standing against the medical and political tyranny that has gripped our country since the start of this planned global reset known as COVID-19. This is not a right or left issue. Government is a sham. We are run by corporations who place puppets in position to divide and control the regular people, which I view everybody in this room as. The largest corporate interest is, of course, the pharmaceutical racket. I am here to plead for an open dialogue to work its way to the health board. You will be forgiven for the enforcement of masks and the physical and psychological harm this has caused to the children. I know that you are just following orders. Allowing anyone else to get this experimental vaccine, however, shall not be forgiven. Allowing children to get these shots is unfathomable. The majority of people will say they trust the science and the experts. What they're really saying is they do not have the cognitive capacity to go and take information, decipher it, and conclude their own opinion, thus guaranteeing never having to face the unfortunate reality that they are ignorant, uninformed, and lazy. Here's the takeaway. VAERS. So this is the where you can't sue anyone if you are injured by what is classified as a vaccine. All reactions should be reported to a passive reporting system. This has been found to be 1% of childhood vaccines according to the Harvard Lazarus study. Before 2021, the average annual adverse reactions reported to VAERS was 60,000 cases. As of July 9, 2021, 52% of the year, there have been 463,456 reports. A CDC whistleblower signed a sworn affidavit saying the statistics are being tampered with, and at least 45,000 people have died directly from the shots in the US over a recent 3-day period, not the reported total 10,991 up to July 9th. Athletes in high school have been dying days after the shot, and this is now commonplace. ACIP, the CDC board that approves vaccines, recently reviewed the confirmed link and reports of multiple cases of myocarditis and pericarditis in teens after receiving the shots. Unlike other organs, once you damage the heart, it never recovers. The board, not one a cardiologist, unanimously approved for all children who suffered this irreparable damage, said it is fine to continue to offer the shot even after this reaction is seen after the first shot, once they are feeling better. This is the science that we are following. Female reproductive health is being attacked, where the unvaccinated are being exposed to the vaccinated, and even in my personal experience have witnessed multiple miscarriages, postmenopausal bleeding for months, unexplained ongoing menstrual periods, emergency hysterectomies, and more.
Okay, thank you very much, Justin. Your 4 minutes are up. We appreciate you.
I've got one little last bit.
Oh, 10
Just
seconds.
the coincidence that the genetic code for the spike protein is a mirror copy of the placenta. I'm asking you now again, take the mask off the children, please. Demand these experimental things they are calling vaccines be fully investigated. Start having the conversation with informed parents who care enough to be here. I am happy to be proven wrong. Bring an army of MDs and pharmacists with you. I am open to discuss the matter for however long it takes. The madness stops when we say it does.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments. Have a great evening.
I've got some pictures here for everybody to look at. It's from a piece called Children of the Great Reset. The last page shows a picture of my son at his daycare without a mask. And I think a picture tells 1,000 words, and I just think this is relevant for everybody to take a look at. If I could just leave these on somebody's desk.
You can give it to Laura.
Yes, put them at the end of the table, please. Probably should have put them at the end of the table.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You have a great evening. Do we have someone that can clean the microphone?
We can, yeah.
Was he touching it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His wife is next, though, so.
Do it after the wife?
Yeah, I think so. Are we bringing Cynthia Porter in?
Yes.
She's coming.
If she's not ready, next up is Kyle Montgomery.
Cynthia's
We want to
coming.
bring Kyle? Okay. Next up is Kyle Montgomery.
Next is Kyle.
And can we have them ready? Okay.
Said we can go, sorry about that.
Okay, Cynthia, can you, welcome to the Woodland Board meeting for tonight. Can you please state your name and your affiliation with the district for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Cynthia Porter. I'm a mother of my son Joaquin Diego Armando Porter. He's going to be going to first grade.
Okay.
Okay.
And we allow 2 minutes for your statement, please.
Yep, I just have a few questions.
Okay. Now, your questions.
I know they're not going to be answered. I'm just just for a follow-up if you guys can.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Go ahead,
And a
please.
few statements, just questions and statements.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
As a parent, I have a simple question I would like to ask. Actually, a few questions. Why are parents not allowed to make decisions for their children? If masks work so well, why are they still being pushed
Hey,
to
Cynthia, I'm sorry to interrupt
Yes.
you, but you're going to have to put the microphone up people won't be able to hear you.
Oh, okay. Put
No,
it
no,
up here?
put it closer to
Oh,
your mouth
closer?
if you're
Okay.
gonna hold it, yes.
Why are parents not allowed to make decisions for their children? If masks work so well, why are they still being pushed over a year and a year on until right now we don't have a decision, which I've asked right before? If you're vaccinated, what are you afraid of? Why are masks not required in other districts that I've heard of? But why is it we don't have the decision yet? Why is no one focused on diet, exercise, lifestyle, spiritual and emotional well-being? Neither of my children have had taken pharmaceutical products in their life. They've never taken Advil, Tylenol. They don't have vaccines. They've never had antibiotics in their life. They eat predominantly organic food, take herbs and spices, and they're very healthy and active and live, energetic kids. They've not worn masks and even refused to. They have no fear and embrace social opportunities, even taking handshakes and hugs. They have no ear infections. They've never had any sicknesses, and then if they do, they recover very quickly. So in rare events, they do get sick, no development disorders, and no new normal childhood chronic illnesses. We are overtaxed with 80% of my property taxes going towards the public schools. Education is a right in this state. If you're willing to give me $10,000 back from my property tax bills, I'll happily take them to a different school where freedom exists. Why have I never seen outrage that the obesity, diabetes, cancer, autoimmune epidemics have grown in this country year after year? When do we expose these companies like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Nestle, Monsanto, Kraft, Kellogg's, Pepsi, Hershey, Lay's? Health starts here regarding the bloated tax bill that we pay.
That's the 2 minutes.
Okay, you wanna go ahead and wrap up, Cynthia?
Yeah. When we do look at the food you feed the children, we need to take a better look at that. The health board, the definition of health is toxic shots, suffocating masks, and keeping everyone far apart from one another. The physical, psychological, and spiritual health of the children and adults are being permanently damaged.
Okay,
To give you an idea, I have printed out, which my husband had handed out to you guys, what it looks like in the picture.
hey Cynthia, I'm gonna have to interrupt you, your 2 minutes are up.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you. You have a great evening.
You too.
I did have a follow-up for you, Cynthia. So the questions that you wanted answered,
Yes.
you said they're in the packet that your husband left?
No, I have it in an email. I can send it to you.
Okay, yeah, if you could do that, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, have a good evening. Okay. Kyle Montgomery, welcome to the board meeting. We're going to have you state your name and your affiliation with the district for the record, please. We're going to allow 2 minutes for your presentation to the board, and let us know if you expect any follow-up.
Okay, all right. Kyle Montgomery. Is it working?
Just a second.
You just have to talk, Kyle, just talk really close to it.
Really close to, all right.
Yeah.
Kyle Montgomery, parent of 2 children in District 50.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kyle,
Can-
sorry to interrupt, sir. Sharon DeRose is next.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, all right. So parent of 2 children in District 50. I have a PhD in pharmacology, well-versed in science. I'm here to speak about the safety of masks and demand that masks be made optional in the coming school year. The reason for this is children at very low risk of severe COVID outcome, which has not changed with the recent Delta variant. By the way, this is fully cited, and if it sounds familiar, that's good because you've read some things I've sent you. But the latest data show a 99.995% survival rate in children. Children do not contribute significantly to community spread with little to no child-to-child or child-to-adult transmission. No strong reason exists to mask our kids, especially when the majority of adults in Lake County have been vaccinated. We could say that masks are harmless and that it doesn't hurt anything to take extra precautions, but masks aren't harmless. A recent analysis of 44 mask studies, which include cloth, surgical, and N95 masks, describe numerous adverse effects of masking. Physiological effects include a respiratory impairment, increase in inhaled CO2, changes in blood gas profile, so increased CO2, decreased O2, increase in pulse rate, increase in respiratory rate. All 3 mask types have shown measurable CO2 retention and multiple other similar results. The authors described that these physiological changes are even if small, can have long-term consequences. These are not necessarily known for prolonged mask wearing. However, long-term consequences of the prolonged conditions have been implicated. These include irritation of the respiratory tract up to asthma, vascular damage, endothelial dysfunction, leading to stimulation of arteriosclerosis and damage of blood vessels supplying the brain. The authors explain that children are more vulnerable to these changes in physiological conditions. The authors also describe other risks and dangers associated with masks. These include multiple neurological, physiological, dermatological, and dental side effects, which I do not have time to list. The risk of mask wearing appears to outweigh the benefits in children. There's no reason to subject our children to these risks and potential long-term pathologies. Many Illinois schools are making masks optional.
We are at 2 minutes.
Okay, your
Just
2
a little
minutes
bit
are
more.
up.
20 seconds? 10 seconds?
Okay, go ahead and wrap it up.
Roughly
Bill.
130 schools, according to social media trackers. Some of these are large districts, include elementary schools, which are confirmed in news articles, Arlington Heights, Oswego, Crystal Lake Elementary, Plainfield, Ball Chatham. You guys know the new IDPH guidance, but I just want to say that you have the decision to make the choice to make masks optional. And right now in Lake County, cases are well below the minimal
Okay,
threshold of
thank
22.
you so much, Kyle. We appreciate your
All right. Thank-
feedback to the board.
All right, thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you. You have a great evening. Sharon DeRose is next.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you, Martha. Sharon DeRose, and then we'll have Gail Saunders. Okay, Sharon, welcome. You have 2 minutes to speak before the board. Please state your name and your affiliation with the district for the record, please.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, and I'm sorry, but can you pull up your mask over your nose?
Good evening, everyone.
Nope, it needs to go up
You know what,
above your nose.
I can't breathe when I'm talking.
Okay.
That's pretty much what I'm going to be
You're-
talking about.
you're-
the fact that I
I'm
can't
sorry,
breathe.
we're gonna, you need to go fix your mask, and
But I cannot breathe.
Okay.
Okay,
there you go. Yeah, that's
I'll do it like
perfect.
this. All right.
Thank you.
Talk really close, because otherwise you can't.
Okay. All right. My name is Sharon DeRose, and I'm a parent of 3 children that have graduated from Woodland, and I'm also a speech pathologist, hence why it's difficult for me to wear this. I am here to strongly discourage mask wearing this coming school year. We are parents, and I feel that we are entitled to a choice for our children. As a speech pathologist working in the schools last spring, I can firsthand tell you that wearing a mask impacted the children that I serviced. By wearing a mask, critical information is taken away that makes it especially difficult for children to recognize others and read emotional signals. Additionally, these masks impact social emotional behavior, the ability to speak clearly and be heard by others, unless you're talking into a microphone, and most importantly, to meet their IEP goals for working on sound production and language development. In terms of their health, masks provide decreased oxygen on inhalation, not to mention when you add speaking to this environment. There have been hundreds of mask studies related to influenza transmission done over the last several decades. It is a well-established fact that masks do not stop viruses. Part of that evidence shows that cloth face masks actually increase influenza-linked illness. Bacteria are 50 times larger than virus particles. Therefore, these masks are trapping bacteria, mold, and moisture, which was very apparent when I was working with these students. They would come to my room, their masks were filthy, lots of dirt on them, and in some cases, they had a very bad odor. I happened to be at Walgreens the other day, and I picked up a box of...
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank
Okay.
you for coming before
Okay,
the board.
I have a few more. I have one more thing I want to say.
No, your time is up. Thank you very much. If you have it written form, you can leave it, and we'll get copies, or you can email it to us as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. You have a great evening. Gail Saunders. Thank you. Next up, we have David Ulrich. David Ulrich.
No, you're here now.
Yes, please go ahead and speak. If you want to introduce yourself and tell us your affiliation with the district, we'll give you 2 minutes, please.
Great. My name is Gail Saunders. This is my 3rd time here. I hope this is going to be the charm. My affiliation is I'm a taxpayer. Oh, yeah, I'm kind of tall, too. I'm a tall taxpayer. Anyway, and I used to sub here, like I said before. Okay, basically, so I'll start now, okay?
Yes, please.
Basically, it seems like you guys are giving lip service to helping kids. I'm not really seeing a lot of this, and this isn't only because I used to sub in this district and was super unimpressed. And I'm a clearly credentialed teacher. I have a lifetime credential from California. But more recently, it's because of the masks and because of critical race theory. Like the other speakers have been saying, masks are dangerous. Most people who have gotten COVID have worn masks. And in addition to that, with a critical race theory, it's teaching people to be ashamed of themselves, to hate themselves for something they have no control over, and to hate others for something they have no control over, and it's racist and bigoted. I contacted Laura, who was very kind enough, thank you, Laura, to give me statistics as to your enrollment. I didn't get exact numbers, but I believe that in 2019, you had 5,500 kids in this district, and that has dropped by about 500 kids. Laura said that you had expected this. However, I have contacted the parochial schools in the area, and they have not had the same drop in enrollment. They have had a steady enrollment. I contacted the parochial school in Wadsworth. I have 2 Catholic schools and the Jewish day school. They have had a steady enrollment, so obviously they didn't get the same memo. So there's obviously something that you're doing that isn't working, and I think it's the masks, and I also think it's the critical race theory. And also, I believe that your enrollment is going to drop even further because there are now co-ops for education, and parents are doing homeschooling too. And it's because of the mask mandate. You're not listening to people, and it's because of critical race theory. Okay? I live in the area, so I'm out in the community a lot, and I've heard what people have said about this district. I've talked to the mother of a child who's biracial. So what part of her are you going to talk to? You know, and
Okay, thank you so much for your comments, Gail, and have a great evening. Next up, we have David, and then Lynn Ulrich.
David Ulrich.
David and Lynn Ulrich.
David Ulrich and Lynn Ulrich.
Hi, good evening, David. Thanks for attending the meeting. Can you introduce yourself for the record as well as your affiliation with the district?
Yes, my name is Dave Ulrich. I live about 2 blocks away from here. I have a 7th grader coming here, and I've lived in the district for 20 years and in Wildwood before that for another 20 years.
Okay, so I will give you 2 minutes to speak and follow the cards, okay?
Got it, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So once again, my name is Dave Ulrich. I've been in the area for quite some time. I'm a scientist. I have 2 undergraduates, 1 in biology, 1 in medical technology, and a master's in engineering. With that, cumulative is 8 semesters of microbiology. And I just want to quickly cover, obviously quickly, 2 studies that are out there. One is a Danish study where they took 3,000 people that were masked the whole time and 2,997 that were not masked and showed no difference in infection rate. This porosity of this is 5 microns. A virus is 1,000 times smaller than that. So this does not filter out viruses. The little boxes that have you out there, set it right on there, will not stop viruses. Then that shows that face masks do not work. And also, there's a German study that came out of Germany of 8 medical doctors that reviewed filtration studies and adverse events on health issues from wearing a face mask from 2002, the first COVID outbreak out of China, from 2002 to 2020, 1,100 studies, got it down to 149, scoured them, and showed there's severe physiological effects with the face mask on. From bacteria going into the mouth, from viruses going back into the nose. When you look at the stats on the MMWR, the Morbidity Mortality Weekly Report from CDC, of the people that go into the hospital with COVID, 88% said they always wore their mask. And then finally, along those lines, there's a group of doctors for COVID ethics. 300 doctors have signed that COVID is no worse than the common flu, the common cold. COVID is actually the coronavirus. Flu is the influenza virus. They're in the same family. They're respiratory viruses. They have single-stranded RNA, very well studied, and it shows that masks don't work. Actually, there's adverse events, and 300 doctors have signed that, all from Europe, from immunology, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, I'd like to end with Benjamin Rush, one of our founding fathers. Unless we put medical freedom into the Constitution, the time will come when medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship to restrict the art of healing to one class of medicine and deny equal privileges to others. The Constitution of this republic should make special privileges for medical freedom.
Okay.
With
Well,
that
thank
said-
you very much,
Well,
David. I appreciate you coming tonight. Have a great evening. You too. And next up, we have, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, okay.
Filtration size, virus is 1,000 times smaller.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you're Lynn? Okay, next up we have Paula Emmerich.
Paula.
Oh, Paula, yes.
Hello, good evening. My name is Lynn Ulrich. I've been a surgical tech and RN.
I'm sorry, Lynn. Go ahead, introduce yourself. We want your name, but also your affiliation with the district.
Okay,
And
I'm a mom. I have a 7th grader in the district.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you put on your mask, please?
I have a medical exemption, so I'm unable to wear one.
Okay, we'll have you step out, and we'll have somebody go ahead of you, okay?
Can I just read? I mean,
No.
you guys are behind these glass. You all have masks on.
Okay.
I'm way
Can we
far
call the
away.
Gurnee Police
I mean,
Department?
please,
Can
we
get
have
the
to use our
police in here?
sense here. Just let me read and get it over
No,
with.
follow the rules, please. Get that gurney, please.
Okay, I'm going to put a mask on.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it.
And this is an indication of what my child will go through, because we're adults and you guys are treating us this way. What are you going to treat the children like? I mean, we're very afraid. I'm afraid for a lot. I mean, it's just a good indicator of what happened when the adults aren't around. I'm a highly educated professional.
You're using your 2 minutes now, Lynn. Okay,
I've been a
ready?
surgical tech and RN and ICU, cardiac, and an anesthetist for almost 30 years. First, let's cover again the harmful effects all children will be subjected to if you force them to wear a mask while in your care. Increased work on breathing, increased respiratory rate, increased heart rate, inhalation of bacteria and molds, decreased oxygen content inhaled, increased carbon dioxide, I can't even see. Psychological stress. I have a few studies that I will hand out or you can take later. To change the subject, we are a country of laws, not guidelines, not recommendations, and here are a few we should think about. There is no statutory law that requires you, your employees, or your students to wear a mask, get their temperature taken, take a COVID-19 test, or stay 3 feet or 6 feet apart. In fact, if you require your employees or students to wear a mask or restrict their movement or entry if they are not wearing a mask, you all are at risk for violating several federal laws. The U.S. Constitution. Requiring someone to wear a mask as a condition to attend your public school is infringement of the right protected under the U.S. Constitution, the highest law of the land. No law is valid or lawful that violates the Constitution. No health order, emergency order, state of emergency, municipal ordinance, or school policy may suspend or violate the Constitution, period. U.S. Title 52, Civil Rights Act 1964, unlawful to discriminate in place of public accommodation. Your school is legally defined as a place of public accommodation, and as such, you will not prohibit entry by discriminating against someone for their medical condition, disability, or religious views, as you just did. If someone is unable or unwilling to wear a mask for one of those reasons, you may not prohibit their entry.
2 minutes is up.
Just as you,
Okay, thank you so much.
In conclusion, just as you would not be able to deny entry to someone based on their skin color or if they were in a wheelchair.
Okay, thank you so much. You have a great evening.
That is terrible.
Paula is up next.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Paula. Thank you for.
See my sign? That's what I brought it for.
Okay.
My name is Paula Emmerth. I'm a little impaired here by this mask. I'm not used to wearing one. I'm coming here tonight to address you to oppose any notion you may have of making children have vaccines or wear a mask or social distance. Do you want me to pinch this? Is
Yes,
that what you're
please.
trying to say?
Yes,
You're
thank
afraid the
you.
virus is going to get out?
And before you get too much into your presentation, you stated your name. Can you also state your affiliation with the district?
Yes, I'm a taxpayer and I'm a concerned citizen.
So you're a taxpayer in our district?
No, I am a taxpayer. Well, I guess I could say that I own property, rental property, so I do have some property, but I do have a concern for the children that you're educating here, and I don't want to spend my 2 minutes discussing my right to be here to speak in a public forum. So, what I want to do is ask you guys to please, if you're going to vote on it, not make these children have to wear these things that cover up their identity. They are human beings. This was supposed to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It has now become a cultural safety measure that we're going to go on in perpetuity with, that they are not going to have their identities. Okay, you guys had your identities growing up. You had your ability to play with other children and not have to see yourself as a health criminal. And I'd like you to say, you know what, we need to extend that to our children as well. It's only fair. You don't have a right to rob them of their basic human rights, their identities as people. Okay, and yes, I do see you. I don't look at your feet to identify you. Okay, I look at your face. They have faces. They have to be able to know each other with their faces. And I believe it's an extremely important point. I'm going to make one example, maybe two here. I work in the pro-life movement. Okay, 1 out of 3 women have abortions. When we show her baby on an ultrasound, 80% of the time, that woman changes her mind. And if you ask her why, she said, I saw my baby's face. Okay? Your face is important. Okay? When they execute a person by firing squad, what do? They put a mask over their face, a bag over their face, so the people firing at them do not need to see their face. That's what's being done on a sustained basis with our children by covering their identities. And I know everybody else wants to speak to the health thing, that's why I'm not doing that. But I am speaking to
2
the
minutes is
social
up.
and cultural aspects of it.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula. Your
All
2
right.
minutes is up.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming in.
Okay.
Have a great evening.
Rights lost. Everybody see that? All of my rights and your rights.
Okay, thank you. We have Paula, Becky Adams?
Becky Adams?
Yes, and then Steve Swellex? Yes,
Is that the one who gave up his time?
Is Steve the one who gave up his time?
Oh, he did.
Might be.
Oh, yes, Steve gave up his time. Okay. So we won't call on Steve. After Becky, we have Vance Scott, Vanice Scott.
Is Steve here?
Steve is here.
Yeah, he gave up his time to the other guy, is what he told us. Hi, Becky, can you introduce yourself and state your affiliation with the district for the record, please?
Becky Howell Adams. I had 4 children attend Woodland. The youngest is still at Warren. I'm actually Dr. Becky Howell Adams. I have my microbiology degree from Northwestern Feinberg School of Medicine, where I studied the molecular mechanisms of antigenic variation in human pathogens. I taught med students, graduate level dental students, went to the Medical College of Wisconsin, and lectured undergraduate students before working for Abbott the last 20 years, developing PCR tests for gonorrhea, chlamydia, HIV quantitation, as well as immunoassays to detect metabolic conditions and infectious diseases. I'm here because on July 13th, Illinois went from being a blue mandate mask to a green mask per local school board choice when Pritzker said local school boards will have the final say on whether students return to classrooms wearing masks this fall. Over 100 Illinois school districts have already chosen to make masks optional for their students. I know that there's a lot of public health guidelines that are given. I know the science behind masks, so I know that they don't work. I also know that they have a lot of health effects. What is also known is the highest scientists who guide our policies also know that they don't work. So I will be reading from the Fauci emails that were released through the Freedom of Information Act, where his subordinates reporting to him, and he himself states that the masks don't work. Wednesday, February 5th, in responding to Sylvia, who was traveling through an airport, who was concerned, he said, "Sylvia, masks are really for infected people. The typical mask you buy in drugstore is not effective in keeping out virus, which is small enough to pass through the material. It's a virus. It passes through the material. It might provide slight benefit in keeping out gross droplets if someone coughs or sneezes on you. I do not recommend that you wear a mask. Best regards, Tony."
2 minutes is up.
Okay, thank you so much, Becky. Your 2 minutes is up.
The scientists know that masks don't work. It's all in the emails. Don't harm our children.
Have a great evening. Benny, Scott. Oh. Hi. You need to put your mask on.
Yeah, I'm medically unable to wear a mask.
Okay, we can
And I
take
just
your
wanted to say
statement,
one thing.
we can take your statement
Illinois
by
state
email.
law says that discrimination, it shall be unlawful
Denise,
for any person,
where's the Gurney
public or
police?
private institution, or
Go
public
get the
official
Gurney
to
police.
discriminate
Ah.
against any person in any manner, including but not limited to licensing, hiring, promotion, transfer, staff appointment,
Oh, let him
hospital,
know. Okay.
managed care entity, or any other privileges because of such person's conscientious refusal to receive, obtain, accept, perform, assist, suggest, recommend, refer, participate in any way in any particular form of healthcare service contrary to his or own conscience. So, congratulations for being criminals and breaking the law and putting policy and rules over laws.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Robert Adams, and then Julia Leinstrom. Yeah, unfortunately, no one heard what she said because she wasn't wearing a mask and no one paid attention to that. So her, maybe a great statement was lost. Robert?
Yeah.
Welcome to the board meeting.
Thank you.
Can you state your name and affiliation for the
Yeah,
district,
my
please?
name is Robert Adams. I've had 4 kids come through Woodland. I'm a resident of Grain.
If you can either grab the mic and hold it or make sure you lean into it.
Okay. I just wanted to go over this good news. I'm sharing a household with children at risk for COVID-19, a study of over 300,000 adults living in healthcare worker households in Scotland. And the abstract of this basically summarizes that children are relatively protected from COVID-19 due to a range of potential mechanisms which investigated if contact with children also affords adults a degree of protection from COVID-19. And the results of that study, of that 300,000, their conclusions was between March and October of 2020, living with young children was associated with an attenuated risk of any COVID-19 and COVID-19 requiring hospitalization among adults living in healthcare worker households. There was no evidence that living with young children increased adults' risk of COVID-19, including during the period after schools reopened. So having our kids with your teachers will actually decrease their risks of catching COVID-19. You can, because they're not even in a healthcare setting. These were all parents' healthcare settings with multiple kids in the household, either 1, 2, or 3 young children, germ factories, spreading it all over, okay? This is the kind of stuff that definitely should sway your opinion on whether or not masks are required. I also wanted to bring up, we were at Warren on Tuesday night, and they were fighting for their 35-cent tax increase, talking about that. And I think it would be very important to remember that you will also, at some point in time, will need some dollars. And I think if you vote to mandate a mask thing, that will weigh heavily probably in the citizens' view of whether or not to afford you the money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. Have a great evening. Next up, Julia Lundstrom. Oh, okay.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Julia. Welcome to the board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting on a mask. Can you state your name and introduce yourself to the board? Tell us your affiliation, and then we'll give you 2 minutes to speak.
All right, Julia Lundstrom. I am a resident of the district. I had 2 sons actually 4 children that went through this school. I am still a property owner. The reputation of this school affects my property value. So, I can't read.
If you pinch it, then it won't fog up your glasses. Yeah, at the top, at the bridge of your nose. There you
All right,
go.
so Carlisle, District 1, Hudsonville, District 1, Jasper County, District 1, Central, District 3, Westland, District 3, Columbia 4, Ball Chatham 5, Highland 5, Manteno, District 5, Waterloo, District 5, Lexington, District 7, Altamont, District 10, Red Hill, District 10, Breeze Elementary, District 12, Clinton's 15, Central A&M, District 21, Crystal Lake 47, Cornell 70, Flanagan, Cornell 74, Mundelein, District 75, Downers Grove 99, Patoka 100, Lamont 113, Manhattan 114, Eureka 140, McHenry 158, Wheaton 200, Knoxville 202, Vandalia 203, Wilmington 209, Lamont High School 210, Barrington 220, grades 6 through 12, K through 5 is pending, District 228, Rockridge 300, Bradley, Bourbonnais 307, Oswego District 308, Warsaw 316, Genoa Kingston 424, Sycamore 427. They've all chosen their boards to make masking optional. The governor's put it in your hands. It's not a popularity contest. Masks affect children's well-being, not just physically with the virus, which is 99.9, and I don't know what the rest of the digits are, survivable by children under the age of 12. So what I would ask is that you do what is best for the children and not try to win a popularity contest. That's all I have to say. Those were all the districts that have already chosen to do what they needed to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Okay, I think that's it for citizen statements. Julia was the last one. So can you talk to us? Okay, so we're going to move forward if that's okay. Does anyone need a break? Okay. So, next up up, we have consent agenda. Under the consent, we have approval of employment, resignations, retirements, leave of absence, donations, board memberships in state organizations, College and Lake County Partnership, additional computers for e-learning, approval of board minutes, and approval of the monthly financial report, treasury report, and the for the month of June, and the board payable list for the month of July. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Did we get a second? I'm sorry.
Can you motion, Joe? And who seconded?
Corey?
Oh, Corey, okay.
I'm sorry, I haven't heard.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't hear either, honestly. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Lizzie,
Yes.
Renee, Corey,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
motion carries 6-0.
Okay. Next up, we'll move forward then to action items in the board packet. The first action item is the approval of the IASB governance recognition application. Can I get a motion to approve the Illinois Association of School Boards governance recognition application as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion? Did you get that, Laura? I'm sorry
Yes.
if I'm moving too fast.
That's okay.
I'll slow down. Any discussion?
I want to thank Dr. Casey and her team for their work on the school board recognition application, and say that I really appreciate it. I think it's a team effort, and coming together to work on something like this is, on one hand, a really important thing, but it also shows the great work that we've done, and that's even more important on behalf of the community. So thank you.
Okay, and thanks to you as well for the work that you put in. So I really appreciate the work that you guys did. I know I was out on bereavement leave for much of that, so thank you for that. So, any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote then.
Renee, Corey,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Brianna,
Yes.
Carla,
Aye.
Joe,
Yes.
Lizzie,
Yes.
motion carries 6-0.
Next up, we have the approval of the superintendent search firm. We had a special board meeting for the presentations for the final selections, and we have two options for the firm. So can I get a motion? I'll start. I move to approve the letter of agreement with Illinois Association of School Boards to conduct the superintendent search to replace our current superintendent, Dr. Lori Casey, who's retiring. I added that.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, I know we will, I think based on the presentation at the special board meeting, I'm just really pleased with the services that they can offer, the fact that it's our association, they can provide us with two full-time people to work on our search, and also provide, the support and learning opportunities for the board that will be needed in order for us to select the best person for our district. I think we've been very lucky with our superintendents here. We've had a lot of longevity in the district, and a lot of great work has been done under the superintendents since I've been on the board. So these will be, hard acts to follow, especially with all the changing demographics. And I think the district has a high, has set a high bar in what we require of our district in terms of learning opportunities for our students. So we really do have to choose some person that is up to the challenge of that. So that is why I'm recommending, or I ask for the approval for the Illinois Association of School Boards. Anything further from you guys? I know we talked a little bit about some things that we would want to add in as we're working with them, but
No, I mean, I was really appreciative of the presentations. Both organizations brought a lot to the table. They have a lot in common, which is good, but I think we're making a good decision financially and just for our district. I think it's a really good decision. And you said it's a high bar, but I'm excited to see, what the next steps look like.
Yeah.
Me too. It's a really exciting process to start and a tremendously important one for the district. Really, really big shoes to fill, but I'm excited about beginning and getting going with the process. So, and again, like Board Member Holmer said, good presentations. Really love IASB's package of offerings and also their trainings, the workshops that they put on. So we're excited to work with them.
Yes. Anything further? Okay, well then, can I get a motion? I'm sorry, the roll call vote, please.
Corey?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Carla?
Aye.
Joe?
Yes.
Lizzie?
Yes.
Renee? Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, next up, the final action item for the evening is approval of the e-learning plan and resolution. Can I get a motion to approve the e-learning plan and resolution as presented to be effective for 2022 through the 2024 school years?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Great presentation earlier. I think most of the questions were addressed there, but I want to pause in case there's further questions from board members.
No, I just, quick comment, just what Dr. Casey said earlier, that it's a very detailed plan. Something like that would take years to kind of put together for some districts, and the team put together an amazing plan, and I really do think that we have something that other districts can model off. So I'm not saying I want to see it in action, but it's
Right.
like kind of excited to see it in action.
Anything further?
I agree. Great stuff. And it came together quickly and really, really well. So great work. Great work.
Great. Well, if nothing further, roll call vote.
Anna?
Yes.
Brianna?
Yes.
Carla?
Aye.
Joe?
Yes.
Lizzie?
Yes.
Renee? Corey?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
We are on to reports and discussions. Did you guys want to take a 5-minute stretch break and come back at 8:30?
Yeah.
So we'll take a break, 5-minute break. Well, it's roughly 6 minutes.
don't have to. He can start this next one. I'm not.
Oh, okay. Okay, the first report is the written report on Spanish interpreter, translator, and community outreach specialist, job description. Okay, is that a presentation? Oh, I thought that's why I was pausing. I thought you guys were wanting to show us something. Okay, so that written report is in your board packet. Are there any questions and discussions on this report? There's one of the things that Lori wanted us to know that is while we're deciding to currently fund this position through federal dollars, there's a strong case to be made that this could be a budget neutral expense in the future. The cost for translation services paid to external agencies and to internal staff nears $50,000. While this position will greatly reduce those expenses, some expenses for internal staff may still remain due to the wide range of needs in the district. Any further discussion on this written report? No questions about it? You guys are all satisfied with what you've seen?
Yeah.
Okay, well then let's move next forward then to the written report and the presentation on ARP ESSER funds. Oh, is everything okay?
Everything's good. That was our opening.
So, okay, so this is your presentation.
This is the presentation.
I'll move
Sorry
out of
for
the way.
getting up early, just want to make sure it was up. Yeah, this is the American Rescue Plan, ARP, Education and Secondary School Emergency Relief. That's the ESSER portion, and it's 3. This is the third installment of the ESSER grants distributed by the federal government. So ESSER 3, March 11, 2021, it was kind of a historic day, $1.9 trillion in funding, $122 billion for elementary and secondary relief. Provided to the state first, and then the state determines how they're going to release them to each of the all of the school districts. One of the quotes that is commonly used if you call the state and you ask about an impending expense is, the elementary and secondary school emergency relief grant provides local education agencies emergency relief funds to prepare for, and respond to coronavirus threat. It's kind of stock language that they use. When we call the state, they haven't, and you ask questions, they're not as specific as you'd like them to be with some of the questions. I think they still don't necessarily know exactly themselves. So this is kind of the language that they use when we have our questions. Next slide. So in order to receive the funds, we have to seek stakeholder input. We've talked to staff, we've talked to the union, we've talked to administration. This is the community portion of it right here. The community can listen to this presentation. The following board, or perhaps at the end of this board meeting, they allow for public comment. We've spoken to families, we've spoken to students for the planned expenditures. Part of this, there is a 20% reserve for ARP ESSER funding that has to specifically address unfinished learning via evidence-based interventions. And then within 30 days of receiving the allocation of funds or the award of funds, we have to make publicly available our safe return to in-person plan. I will post that on the website. And then, once again, seeking the public comment on the plan. The odd thing about this is you're not allowed to release the plan, but then you're supposed to seek public comment on the plan before posting the plan, so it's a weird kind of way to go about the whole thing. And then we'll just post everything ESSER ARP related on the website within 30 days. Allowable uses. Funds are designated to be used for addressing unfinished learning. We've talked about professional development, improving building safety and indoor air quality, social and emotional supports, and updating and providing technology, updating the infrastructure as well. Authorized expenditures. We have the Every Student Succeeds Act, I'm sorry, yeah, that is our title funds. So anything under the title funds we can use in terms of how we do this, the spending. Anything under the IDEA funding, those are federal grant funding. Anything under the McKinney-Vento Act. So we use those guidelines. We can use those guidelines to figure out what the expenses are going to be and how we address the needs of the students. In addition, obviously anything coronavirus related, anything that has to do with the unfinished learning, including the extension of instructional time, perhaps extending the year has been suggested, summer learning, winter, spring break learning, any type of tutoring after school. In terms of staffing, tutors, social workers are a big one, small group instruction, staff recruitment and retention, after school enrichment programs. Although the one thing that everybody says about this, the one note that you have to make about this is it's one-time funding. So one-time funding, if you take this funding and you look to hire several people, and you have to realize that those people are going to continue to cost money year over year over year. So a lot of the expenses that we looked at are more on the one-time note, although there are some recurring expenses, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. Facilities, PPE, ventilation, that's okay. Obviously, anything to do with HVAC, cleaning, technology, infrastructure and devices. And I think we learned a lot from this pandemic with our infrastructure and with our devices. And in the event, knock on wood, something happens in the future, we want to make sure that we're prepared technology-wise to distribute the best instruction possible. So I showed you this slide actually in my budget report minus the portion on the right-hand side. It just says here's ESSER 1, 2, and 3. These are the allocations that we've been given. On the right-hand side, there was a set-aside. And I've got a little star below that chart that says not in the grant application as of 7/12/2021. They've been talking about additional monies, a $300 million set-aside for Illinois. And there'd been word that people were asking, is it part of the $3.8 million? Is it not? We were told it was not. I didn't see it in the grant. Well, as of last week, I did see it in the grant. So it is an additional portion. So for that set aside, the $300 million, the allocation is broken up 71% for learning loss, 14% for both summer enrichment and after-school programs. So the $3.8 million originally reported is now going to add an additional $186,000, which is fantastic. Our expenditures. Number one on the list, we do talk about staffing for each of the schools. When we went through with the unions, when we went through with administration, what is going to be needed for next year. It's going to be a critical year where a lot of students who haven't been to school at all, some of our little ones, or students who haven't been to school in over a year are going to need some additional supports. Primary school is looking at getting 6 paraprofessionals to help out. They need more bodies for those little ones because they need more people to attend to any of the issues that might take place for students that have not been in school, that are coming to a brand new school, very large, lots of students. So they're looking for additional bodies there versus what the other schools are looking at, and they're looking at social workers. Elementary, intermediate, and middle school are looking at additional social workers to help with the social, emotional component of what has happened with this pandemic. And on top of the social workers, we're looking at additional lunchroom supervisors and possibly extending hours of our current lunchroom supervisors. And the reason for that is because of the requirements when kids take their masks off for lunch service. You're trying to meet, it is doing the best you can to get up to that 6-foot distancing. And when we've been looking at our schools, when we've been looking at our lunchrooms, you can't fit all of the students into a lunchroom in a lot of our spaces. So they're going to have to be divided up into different areas. When you divide them up into different areas, now you're looking at additional supports, additional people to actually supervise those students. So there are going to be a few bodies that we're going to need in each of the schools to take care of that. Now, this will also depend on, within the next month, if something happens and we turn back into the right direction and perhaps we don't need that 6-foot distancing and we can get back to lunch in a normal manner, we wouldn't necessarily need those. Technology-wise, we're looking at devices. We just heard the e-learning plan will need the new devices for 1st and 2nd grade. We're going to continue on with our 3-6 grade roll-ins. And eventually, over the years, using ESSER funds, we can actually get off of our computer leases. We'll need Chromebook carts, we'll need dot cams, we'll need we've already purchased a few smart boards. And there's also, what we've learned last year is there's quite a few general technology requests that happen throughout the year. Something broke, something is needed, we didn't anticipate this, so we left a little bit in the budget for that. Curriculum or operations and facilities, one of the big things we did was we went to 5-day-a-week cleaning. ESSER grant allows us to cover those cleaning expenses. Those are $25,000 a month. So we can go back to March of 2020, actually, and take care of those, although our cleaning didn't necessarily begin until a little bit later, is when we reopened school this year. So we can go back and we can get reimbursement for all of the additional cleaning that we put into our buildings. Obviously, we put in the air purifiers, and we got the additional filters. And then there's also general PPE. I've talked about how FEMA has been reimbursing us, or we've been submitting projects for reimbursement. That particular portion that the president approved, I believe it was in February, is only good through September. So we're going to have some PPE that we're going to be able to get and we're going to be able to claim, but we're probably going to have some additional needs after that. So we've put in a dollar amount that we think will cover all of our needs. And remember, this grant, when you look at the amount of purchases and the amount of time you have to purchase, it goes all the way through September of 2024. So there are probably going to be some adjustments that are going to have to be made, and we're going to have to amend the grant as we go through, but these are kind of the general purposes where we think the money is best allocated at this time. Curriculum, we're adopting a digital social studies curriculum. This is something that we've kind of looked at in the past. If there is a need for us to go back to remote learning, obviously having something, social studies curriculum in digital format, will be great for the district and great for the kids. We talked about the district-wide translator. Lori had mentioned that because of how we pay for translation services at this time, a translator actually might be a net neutral cost, and that would be something, one of those positions that we could keep into perpetuity because of the money that we'll save not having to go out to a third-party vendor versus the money that we'll spend having the in-house translator. And then there's software that we've been looking at. Some of the systems that we purchased last year using the original ESSER funds, we'll be continuing those systems. And there might be one or two new software packages. I think for the most part, though, it's just kind of a continuation of this is what we have to do because we're in a virtual environment. You've got some systems that have some embedded assessments in there. So we've decided to keep those in the package as well. If you go to the next slide, you'll see kind of a breakout. By category, staffing, salary and benefits, technology, O&F, curriculum, translator, software. Right-hand side breaks them out into their groupings by dollar amount. Left-hand side is more individually. Obviously, some of the bigger expenses, summer school, and the staffing with the paraprofessionals and our social workers and student supervisors, one-to-one devices, Chromebook devices, increased cleaning service and the air purifiers, as well as just the general PPE and the social studies curriculum. So that's kind of the general breakdown that we have for our allocations as it stands. The application that opened up in July, we're still filling out. It's a little bit more robust than some of the other applications. So we'll get to that, and we'll also add in the $186,000 because this only gets us to the $3.8 million. And obviously we have to follow the rules and regulations and put them in the correct places where they're supposed to be allocated. Next slide, complete the application. Then we'll have to post our positions, hire the staff. Upon receiving the award, we'll post the Safe Return to School plan on the website. We'll obviously monitor expenditures and amend expenditures as needed. And then we'll have to submit our quarterly reports. The way we receive the money is we spend it up front, and then we submit reports on a quarterly basis, and anything that we've submitted that they approve of, they'll go ahead and send us a check for that amount. And I believe that brings us to the end of the presentation. Questions?
Board member, questions?
I have just a small thing. I thought at some point when you were speaking to us about these funds that it was, you mentioned that this program might not cover the air purifiers. Are we sure that they're covered?
FEMA denied us.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
We actually submitted them in batches too. We submitted them in 2 separate batches, and we were hoping that after our first one got rejected, our second one would get approved so we could fight our first rejection, but our second one came back rejected as well.
When you make the expenditures, are you fairly certain that they will be approved and you'll receive the money?
Yeah, because once you submit the application, if they don't like the expenditures or if they don't like how you account for the expenditures, they return it back to you and say it's rejected. I don't know of any cases that I've ever dealt with where you've actually turned something in and said this is the expenditure, and once it's been approved, and they've said no, this is not part of something that's on the approved list.
Any other questions? You haven't heard about the other funding that's coming from public health?
Say that again?
The other funding coming from public health, you haven't heard about that? The ask for
Bits and pieces. We're waiting for something that's a little bit more detailed. I don't know if you have any insight into when anything is going to be released.
Not officially.
Not officially. Okay. Understood.
No, I was just curious. Yeah, I don't. At first, I thought you said that was being rolled in, but this is actually separate.
That's completely separate. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're trying to work out how the best way to push the funding out, and whether it's going to come through IASB or come directly from state public health.
We look forward to that when it's made available.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. Great report. Next up, we do have a written report on appreciation for staff and welcome back. I know Renee is not here tonight. Corey, did you want to take the lead on this one, or no?
I don't think he knows.
You're not on that committee?
There is no committee.
Well, the written report, did you send it?
Do you want me to explain it? No.
Yeah.
So, Member Amen at the last board meeting had wanted to have the board show appreciation for the staff for everything that they did last year. And so this board meeting, she was going to be talking about what to do with that. So we put a few ideas down for the board to discuss tonight to see how you'd like to move forward. But we're doing something separate as administrators for our staffs for the same reason, because they were amazing last year, and we want to make sure that they know that when we start this year. And this was something separate from the board. Right. So I just put down a few ideas, just just something to get the conversation started if you wanted, or.
Yeah, some of the things I know we had talked about in a smaller group, and, I like all 3 ideas. I think the board can write a letter. I definitely like the idea, but like the ice cream truck idea. Not sure how feasible it is, but I think it's a great idea. I know we've done things in the past as a board, like we've done barbecues that the board has posted for each building. So, what are your thoughts? I know Renee's not here; we can get the information back to her. We'll still have her lead this effort. But if we want to discuss it, and then, I can work with her, Joe, and I can work with her to,
Sure.
Get things going before the school year starts.
Is this a document, did we get that in the board book? I don't see it.
It's part of the reports and discussions page.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's no separate document for it. So do you guys have any objections? If you don't have any objections and you're okay with us continuing to work with Renee on it, we can work with her and then get something and just keep you guys updated as we move forward. But are there any objections?
No, not for me.
Okay,
No,
well
I think
then
it's a
we'll
good
keep
thing to do.
working with Renee on it since she's not here. But we'll come up with something with her. So next up, we'll move forward then, and there's a written report on fall opening of 4 schools. And Lori's sitting up, so are you also doing a presentation? Yes. Because, you know,
Yeah, but it's
you
not.
didn't announce you were doing a presentation, Dr. Casey.
Pardon me?
I said you didn't announce that it was after a presentation.
I'm sorry, that's the presentation.
Yep. Yeah, that's us.
That's okay, you can do
Okay.
the presentation.
Written report and presentation.
Written report and
allow it.
presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're good, we'll allow it.
All right, thank you. Okay, I want to make sure you can hear, and remind me if I don't talk into the mic all the time, because I know it's hard to hear. I have people letting me know that as I'm sitting there. So I just want to begin by saying I'm really excited to start the school year with our students coming back and the opening of school. The goal remains that we're going to bring all of our students back safely for full instruction, and most importantly, we all need to follow the data and continue to pivot as we watch the local and state incidence rates. As you know, we recently received updated guidance from the CDC and the IDPH and ISBE. Woodland takes the safety of our students and our staff very seriously, and I believe our decisions and the board's decisions last year supported this, as well as the plan that I'm going to share with you this evening. I'd like to thank my team at the district office and the principals who have spent this entire summer researching, planning, and preparing for a safe and happy return for all. One area I know the board had some questions about was unfinished learning. And because of all the pivoting with hybrid and remote and in-person, coupled with the unequal access to technology and all the other factors that have interrupted learning, some students haven't been able to get all the learning they needed to in the past year. In other words, they were not able to finish the learning they began. Students must not be given a message that the progress they made during this past year has been a failure. We have been researching and studying all summer, and we've learned that there are themes. One of the main themes is the positive growth mindset. Language we use with our students and staff matter. Students must not be given a message that the progress they've made during this past school year has been a failure. We need to focus on grade level skills and concepts and differentiate when needed. We should not be focusing on remediation. A lot has gone wrong, but we also know that during many, many conversations with teachers and parents, there are things that have gone well. Some students have flourished in remote learning environments, and teachers have been able to partner with families on a whole new level and have created new and innovative ways to reach students. The critical decision to address unfinished learning is not to focus on skills or standards that need to be taught or caught up on, but rather to focus on the prioritizing that's essential. We know there's challenges ahead in this area, and we're prepared to give our staff professional development and time. Any teacher will tell you the best gift you can ever give them is time to focus on those challenges. The next area I want to talk about is masks. Per the guidance from, again, the Illinois State School Board, CDC, and the Illinois Department of Health, vaccinated individuals do not need to wear masks when indoors at school. Masks should be worn indoors by all individuals who are not fully vaccinated. This includes students and staff. When students are outdoors, they do not need to wear masks. And students and drivers must wear a mask when riding the bus per the CDC. The middle school is a little different story. We have middle school students who will be vaccinated and some who will not be. So we believe that mask wearing is important for unvaccinated individuals. However, when we start to apply terms such as mandated or required, this implies that we're going to have consistent, sustained monitoring of mask wearing behavior. We want our teachers and our educators to focus and concentrate on teaching and learning and building relationships with students and not acting as the mask police. We have just come through a very difficult year in which we've excluded students from in-person learning for months at a time. We're asking parents and staff to talk to our students about the importance of following the masking guidelines. So one reason that we talk about masks is for quarantine purposes and to reduce quarantine. And if a student or staff member is vaccinated, they will not need to quarantine if identified as a close contact. We have the ability to know through iCares if these students are not vaccinated from the state of Illinois. Some new guidance came out recently with the most recent update, and that was that unvaccinated students that wear a mask and are tested for COVID and follow other mitigation procedures will not need to quarantine if they're identified as a close contact. However, if vaccinated or unvaccinated and are displaying any symptoms, they all need to quarantine pending test results. Unvaccinated students that do not follow the guidelines will need to quarantine for 10 days if identified as a close contact. Our goal is to reduce the amount of time anyone has to quarantine in order for our staff and students to remain in school. It's important to note that we do contact tracing very closely with the Lake County Health Department, And they all become on an individual basis as every situation is different. We talk a lot about masks, but we're really talking about layering mitigation. We closely monitor real-time data, and we regularly confer with health officials and adjust our strategies as necessary. Masking is only one of the many mitigation strategies we employ at Woodland. There are also other important strategies, and then we're going to emphasize those this year too. One area we're going to talk more about this year is for staff and students to please stay home when you're sick. We'll also be asking parents to make sure they have a plan to pick up their child from school if they receive a call that their child is displaying any symptoms. This means that from families, we're going to need a few new phone numbers and ways to contact them. We also are going to be asking our staff at the beginning of the year, which we did in the past, to take an anonymous survey so we know the percentage of our staff who are vaccinated, so we have that idea. Middle school, as I said, is a little bit different because of the age of the students. So a couple questions that I kept getting I just wanted to talk about briefly at the middle school. As we start the school year at the middle school, we will not be using lockers or locker rooms. Therefore, students will not be changing for physical education. Mrs. Drake will send out more information as it pertains to middle school students, and as we monitor the data, this may change too. We also know that some middle school students will be wearing masks and some will not due to being vaccinated or not vaccinated. Homebound and quarantine students. We are not offering remote instruction this year at this point. Should a child have a medical condition preventing them from attending in person for 2 or more consecutive weeks or on an intermittent basis, that child may qualify for homebound instruction. The Assistant Director of Educational Supports and Innovation will be working with families who need homebound instruction to set up those programs. Furthermore, we will provide instruction for vaccine-ineligible students who are required to quarantine due to catching or being exposed to the virus. Parents will be picking up work at school in the front office, and the teacher or team will be checking in with the student to assist with questions or instruction. School leaders are going to be assessing this process, and we're going to be adjusting it if needed. Social emotional learning. We've discussed from last year, the last year and a half, about the importance of social emotional learning, but especially during the pandemic. The shift to distance learning in 2020 disrupted typical home, school, and work routines. Existing equity gaps widened, and students have reported increasing feelings of depression and anxiety. As we prepare to return to in-person learning, social emotional learning has rightfully taken a front seat in our reopening plans. Social emotional learning can create a positive environment for students to learn. It can also help students develop skills for handling big transitions like returning to the classroom. Children can and do recover from traumatic events such as this, and as adults, we play an instrumental role in that process. We know that students do well when they have strong, trusting relationships with their teachers. And last year, our teachers demonstrated new and innovative ways to connect with students. They took the time to do that, and we're going to focus on that again this year. We will be conducting professional development for our staff in this area. Again, it's new to many people. Each school is going to be dedicating a 30-minute block of time daily to work on this, and this will look different in every school depending on the age of the student, such as circle time for the younger grades. We're partnering with Warren Youth and Family Services to offer workshops for parents, and we'll be conducting FastBridge, which is a formative assessment to measure the social emotional behaviors and skills to give us some valid and reliable data for our social emotional programs and interventions. Through our ESSER funds, as Chris talked about, we are recommending additional positions in this area, including social workers and paraprofessionals. We know this area needs time, and our staff needs time to focus and learn in this. Finally, we know our staff has experienced emotional trauma this past year. We know our staff can't take care of our students if we don't take care of our staff. We love our staff. Therefore, we have a new committee that's committed to staff wellness in a variety of ways. More information will be coming out in August about this, but I'm really excited. Shield testing update. Thank you for last month for approving shield testing at the June board meeting, and thank you to Dr. Maychek and his team who've conducted a pilot during summer school, so we're going to be ready to go when school starts. Shield Test is an FDA-approved, fast and reliable resource that we can begin utilizing after Labor Day in every school. It's free of charge to assist us in planning a safe return to in-person instruction. Because of its ability to identify the virus before any symptoms develop, Shield testing supports our current classroom relocation and contact tracing procedures. Shield testing materials, supervisors, delivery, and sample testings are offered at no cost by the Illinois Department of Public Health to Woodland District 50. This is a parent choice. The more parents who agree to have their child tested, the less students who will have to quarantine, and the faster we'll be able to determine if we have any positive COVID cases in our schools. Our staff will also have access to testing if they wish. More information is going to be coming out to parents about this, prior to school starting, as we know many parents have many questions about this. To start school, food is always a good thing to talk about. We are going to be having breakfast as a grab and go, and lunch will be brown bag. Each school will have their own unique setup, so we'll have to adjust we've had to adjust schedules, we have to use the gym for some eating stations, and we've had to add personnel in order to ensure the safety of our eating time, as students will not be masked. Offering hot lunch will be discussed once the school year is started, and we believe we can do it successfully and safely. Facilities. Our Operations and Facilities Department has a motto, which is "We're here to help." And this past year and a half, they've certainly lived up to that motto. As we start the school year, we continue to adjust our practices, again, based upon the CDC, IDPH, and Lake County Health Department guidance. We continue to work with suppliers to ensure we have a 30-day inventory of all PPE and cleaning and disinfecting products. We've increased our number of air purifiers since the spring to include any room that does not have a window. Our signs and messaging will be all ready to go for all of our schools. Playground equipment will be cleaned at least once a day, and high touch points in the school will be cleaned twice a day. Classrooms will be cleaned daily. We will begin this year with relocation rooms and isolation rooms, and we will determine if we need to discontinue those as the year progresses. I am recommending that we no longer conduct self-certification checks every morning for staff or students. The information on the screen will be sent to parents. The information on the screen will be sent to staff and our students. Our staff has been great reporting any child who has symptoms and then following our protocol. If our data indicates that we need to reinstate this, I will make that recommendation to the board at the September board meeting or at the appropriate time. Welcome back fall and dates. On August 12th, we'll be hosting a Facebook Live event with all of our principals and myself and Mrs. Hagstrom, and answering some frequently asked questions that we've been receiving. It will be recorded and available for parents to watch at a later date. Each school has planned some fun and safe activities to welcome our students back, including our annual Popsicles with the Principal and Meet and Greet with the teachers. Our school-specific information will be included in each principal's welcome back letter. As of now, our curriculum nights will be in person in September so parents can meet their child's teacher in person. We love having our parent volunteers. However, until further notice, visitors will be discouraged. I did want to make the board aware of some areas of focus that we've been working on too. The number of students registered for kindergarten is low. We only have about 245 students who are registered at this time to come to kindergarten in the fall. Typically, our numbers in March are about 250 to 300. This makes planning, transportation routing, and hiring difficult, especially if families wait until late August to register. There are several students that are currently being processed. The number has picked up this last week, which is good news, and we anticipate our numbers will continue to grow. This year, we are not holding a proof of residency event, and instead we are allowing parents to register online. As of Monday this week, we had 1,700 families who have not re-registered to come back to school. We are asking all parents to please go in and register your children, re-register your children. Currently, in order to keep our buses at 50 or less, which is our goal, we are several drivers short. Mr. DeVita and his team have been working all summer to recruit and train drivers for us. We are currently 16 drivers short. Is that correct, Mr. Bobek, as of today? Once we have final registration numbers, there may be slight changes to capacity limits or bus drivers. Also, the guidance states that we should be unmasked students while they're eating should be 6 feet apart to the best of our ability. This means we're having students eat in other areas they're not used to, such as gyms and other social, other places for social distancing purposes. We're still awaiting for 370 families to return devices from last year. We need these devices next year in order to effectively implement e-learning if there's an emergency school closure due to weather. If we need to replace all of those devices, we're looking at $106,000. Finally, the guidance is different depending on what agency is stating the guidance. The state of Illinois has left the decisions up to local control. While I support local control, it makes it difficult when the guidance is not consistent. Therefore, I made our decisions on what the current local data was saying for Woodland, the size of our schools, bringing back thousands of students into one area, and the Lake County incident rate, as well as IDPH and CDC guidance. One question I've gotten is what is the number that we will need to change any of our mitigation strategies? I was just on a call yesterday with Mark Pfister, the Executive Director of the Lake County Health Department, and there really is no magic number. There is science, and the Delta variant is something they're watching. He said we are not done with COVID at this time. They encourage vaccinations, and those that are not vaccinated are the ones that they're concerned about. I meet weekly with all the Lake County superintendents and with the health department, and we discuss the incidence rates and we discuss where we stand on mitigation strategies. I'll be monitoring zip code incidence rates in our school district in Lake County as we enter the fall. We are also awaiting some frequently asked questions from Illinois State Board of Education that will have further direction for us. So finally, it's hard to agree on this issue. Right now, we know that there's many things that people have very strong opinions on. I'm sure my statement regarding masking is not welcomed by everyone. I've received dozens of emails these last few weeks from parents and community members, some wanting full masking, some wanting it to be the parents' decision, some want virtual school options, some want us to follow the guidance from one agency, some want us to follow the guidance from another agency. We have one thing in common, and that's we all want to protect our students and our staff. How staff and parents, talk about the mask decision will affect how our students treat each other who wear masks. It's our responsibility to talk positively about those who choose to wear masks and encourage our children to support those students, even if they're choosing not to mask, talking about middle school, because they've been vaccinated. Let's actively teach our children to be inclusive and supportive. Although we encourage vaccination, we know that there are some people who choose not to be vaccinated have reasons for this. It is a family decision, and every family situation is different. Also, if you're averse to masks, please remember that the person next to you wearing a mask is concerned about their health or the health of someone around them. Our plan would be to start the school year with the multiple mitigation strategies I spoke of. We will re-examine it at the September board meeting to determine if we need to reinstate prevention strategies or begin to remove some things layer by layer. If there's a drastic change in incidence rates before then, I would speak to the board and I would make adjustments. In my communication going to parents tomorrow, there's a form to submit additional questions to help us as we communicate back to school plans. I'd like to thank you as a board for your trust in us and my team as we prepare for an exciting and unique school year with our kids coming back. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, board members, questions? Any questions or comments?
Really good work, I would say. It seems like you guys have thought of everything as usual. I really liked when we came back last fall, the way that you guys took all the questions, or it was actually when we came back in person in the spring, that you took every question that was asked that every single question that a person asked and answered it. I thought that was really helpful because there were lots of questions in there that I hadn't thought of and that were really useful. And so I think, and I love the idea of the Facebook Lives. The one that you guys did before was so great and just, I think, really helped people feel confident that you guys had thought of everything. So, thank you.
Anything further, questions or comments?
I appreciate the work that you've done and the fact that we are following the guidance of public health professionals. It occurred to me as we were listening to the presentation about the ESSER funds, and everything we talk about relies on keeping kids in school, right, to learn in school. And if we have an outbreak, and we can take a look and say that we didn't take every precaution to keep kids safe and in school, and we have to cancel school, right? That's a disaster. That was really, really hard for our families, and it's difficult. That's why we're talking about trying to make up for unfinished learning right now. So I appreciate the fact that we're doing what we need to do, to keep our kids safe and following the guidelines. I think that's the right call. There are a million different opinions and a lot of folks on a lot of different sides of the issue, but keeping the kids safe and keeping the kids in the classroom with their teachers has to be the number one priority. And I think this plan does that. I support it.
Yeah, echoing what Joe was saying, it's clear that the two goals were student safety and student education, and I'm excited to get the kids back in the building. I like the extra steps we're taking, especially with shield testing. I think that's something that we should be really excited about, and I think that's going to help very long term. We know the plan might change. You know the plan will change, and I think you guys are ready for anything. We learned a lot last year, and I think it's going to be a great year, and I'm excited to get the kids back in the building.
Anything further?
I would just like to follow up both of you with, you said yourself, not everyone's going to be happy with masks. Studies were referenced. I know that one particular study has since been retracted. So I just commend you on just looking at all the data and making the best decision possible with the information we have. And, things might change, and we have to change with them. And, if there are special cases, then we'll consider those. If a child seriously cannot wear a mask, well, yeah, we're gonna look at those special exceptions, and we're looking at the bigger group. Most kids will do fine wearing them until we don't have to anymore.
I do think one thing that's unique about our district is with the size. So some of the districts that are choosing differently are smaller districts. Some are larger, but some are smaller. And when you're bringing back thousands of students into one area, I felt that was important to bring it. I'd rather bring it back safely and then start to take away mitigation layers rather than have to do the opposite. So believe me, our goal is to eventually take some of these away, absolutely. But I just felt with our numbers, this was the safest way to start, and then see what the incident rate numbers are.
Okay, anything further? Okay, thank you for that report. Okay, next up we have board improvements and operations. First, our announcements and committee reports. Are there any committee reports?
The Finance, Facilities and Sustainability Committee met. Do you want to take it away, Mr. Mobeck?
Yes. If you picked up on that, sustainability was added to the committee name. We want to make sure that we bring that to the forefront because that's one of the strategic plans that we're talking about too. It's good stewardship from us being the school district and part of the community to turn our eyes and our ears towards sustainability. So at the committee, we actually did talk about quite a few things. We're in the beginning stages of figuring out a long-term plan, and I know last time the two words that stick out are ideas for Woodland that are actionable and effective. So we've had some ideas from our Director of Operations and Facilities and also our Facilities Manager. We're kind of compiling a little bit of a list and then trying to figure out, okay, what's going to work, what's not going to work, and what's the timeline for implementation. Obviously, one of the bigger things that we're talking about is solar. We've been talking about the middle school. We're preparing a roof for the middle school. What we want is solar up on the middle school roof, construction starting in the beginning of next summer. In order to do that, procurement for solar panels, obviously with everything that's going on, things are going to have to start happening in the fall. So we've been taking a look not just at our current company, but also another company to do some shopping. At the next board meeting, we're going to have a request, and the request, we might even have to have a twofold request depending on the timing of everything, but the request will be either to go out for RFP or the request will be...
Whoops, sorry, that was me.
The request will either be to go out for RFP or perhaps use the company that we've been using before and continue on with a plan that they have modified to try to get more panels on the roof. Obviously, more panels on the roof means greater sustainability, means greater energy production for the district, means a little bit better in our finances, means good stewardship. So that will be one of the things that will be in the board packet next month, depending on which way one of our vendors actually turns out with how they're going to respond to my request to them. I hope I didn't confuse you by that last part. I feel like I was like double or triple speaking.
Just doing our due diligence when it comes to making sure that
we have an opportunity to do the right thing and to do it to the best of our ability to do it. It's going to help us out the most and be the most efficient. And That's what we're looking to do. Anything else from the committee? I guess we talked about the roof a little bit, our roofing project. It's actually, we've been blessed with one of a fantastic vendor, on time, ahead of schedule, on budget, on time. They're there all the time. We've had great weather, which has helped out. But I don't know how we managed to get this one, but at middle school, we're doing fantastic right now. We're also starting to talk about what to do for next year as well. I had a construction meeting with them this morning because we were a little late to the party last time, so the fact that they were able to procure the steel was enormous, but we'll bring that up at the next board meeting as well, and then further on we'll just make the decision about what to do for the remainder of the middle school roof.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay, then I will go next. We did get an email back from IASB on the receipt of our resolution. There's a committee hearing on August 6th in Springfield. So I will have to go down and provide testimony and address any questions that the resolutions committee might have. They're, for whatever reason, doing this in Springfield instead of Bloomington. Normally it's been in Bloomington. But, any questions about that? That's on Friday, August 6th. Okay. And then the next up, the Gurney Days. Any other committee reports before we move on to Gurney Days update? Okay, we'll move on to Gurney Days update. There was a meeting, I think it was sometime this past week, just to get an update from the committee on the float, their ideas for the float. As you see in the board packet, they have some days for building. Corey and Renee have taken the lead to be the board representation on this committee. So they have the dates of the float building, but if anyone else wants to show up also, there's dates in your board packet for that. The green shirts with the Woodland W on the front and the Life in the W on the back have been ordered, as well as rubber bracelets that change from white to green in the sun and say Life in the W. And that's what we're tossing out to the crowd. Okay. Are there any questions about the planning so far for the Gurney Days parade?
I just want to let you know the band will also be there, so the band will be in front of us when we walk in the parade. And I received some notes from some of you that will also be volunteering at RibFest. So thank you for that.
Okay. And then discussion of dates for the board retreat. You received an email from me. The date that we agreed upon with IASB is September 11th. We'll have our IASB rep there, Laura Martinez, as well as two of the ladies that handle equity and diversity training. I'll give you their names in just a minute. I don't have their names handy, but I don't know why I don't see that. I apologize. I had it up ready to go, and I'm not.
You can send it next week or weekly if you want.
Yeah, weekly.
Yeah, we can do that. So the next steps with this training is that we'll get together with. That's not coming up. We'll get together with Laura Martinez, Joe, Lori, and I will come up with the agenda for September 11th. It'll be an all-day retreat. I anticipate we would start about 8 or 8:30 in the morning and go to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's it, as much as I have right now. Oh, okay.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead, I found
Sure.
the name.
Yep. We also had talked about possibly working with IASB in terms of the superintendent training, which is the superintendent interview training on that day, which would be a pretty effective use of our time. I mean, it's a huge decision that we're going to be making. So working on that together also would make a lot of sense, but we don't know because IASB, we would need to coordinate that with them too.
Yes, so we would work on, in addition to the diversity, equity, and inclusion, we would also do the board, some board leadership training, helping us, form as a leadership team, coming up with board norms, look at the strategic plan goals and see if we want to modify anything for the 21-22 school year, as well as, even if we don't do the superintendent training, that might be a longer training. We would still talk about the superintendent search and just coming up with some plans, especially now that we voted on that action item, coming up with some plans on how that's going to proceed, so getting more things more concrete. So that'll be a part of the day. So it'll be a pretty busy day. For the equity and diversity training, we have Sandra Quazza, Kwasa, and D. Molinare, Molinare. They do a lot of the diversity and equity training for IASB, and I've gone to some of their presentations. And I know we were looking at possibly getting another person in.
Yeah, we should probably hold off on that right now.
Oh, okay.
Because we don't know anything for sure.
But those are the three people we have so far for the day. I think that was it for that. So we'll keep you guys updated. Once we have an agenda in place, a draft agenda, we'll send that out to the board as well. Any questions or comments further on that day?
Oh, where will it be?
It'll be
here.
most likely here. In this space.
Okay.
Rather than going off site.
It sounds like a retreat.
Yeah.
But really, it's a retreat to here.
Yeah, not off site. Okay, hearing nothing further on that. Let's see. We talked about the rainy days.
The equity councils.
Oh, yes, this was another one. In your board packet, also we included some information on the National School Board Association Equity Councils, and they're listed in the board packet. They have the National Black Council, the National Hispanic Council, the National American Indian / Alaska Native Council, and the Council of Urban Boards of Education. And we wanted to, I put this on the agenda because I wanted to see if there was a way that we can join these councils as more of a board, so that we can, participate in some of the training that they offer, as our demographics is forever changing, and so just so that we're more aware of what's being offered in terms of learning, best practices, because I think we should. But one of the things that when Lori asked the question, we learned is that only the Council for Urban Boards of Education is the only one that we can join as a board. The others we can join individually. So just wanted to gauge your interest in joining those equity councils, or they're not councils, equity councils is what they're called. So anyone interested in joining those councils, maybe making sure that we're staying sort of tuned to what's happening in learning for our diverse population of students.
Would anyone like to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I'm interested in the National Hispanic Council of School Board Members. We have a large Hispanic student and family population and a really strong dual language program. And if someone else is interested in that, I would step aside, but I would like to see us represented there. I think that would be meaningful for the district.
Anyone else?
What I was just wondering if you could tell us more about what we would be looking to get out of these memberships.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, these councils are more specific to these population of students. So across the nation, for instance, the National Hispanic Council, so they would, work to promote, the current research specific to learning opportunities for Hispanic students. So making sure that we're aware of those opportunities, making sure we're taking advantage of, what programs they're coming up with as a group, see if that works for our district, if it's information that we can share back to the families. These are kind of special interest groups that would then focus on a given issue.
Okay, so the idea would be that we could maybe bring ideas back to our district.
I'm interested in it because of the training it'll offer and the networking opportunities to hear good ideas going on in other districts. And I clicked on the link just to be 100% sure that I was right. And here it is, virtual networking, content and research, conferences. So yeah, I'm looking at it as a training opportunity to bring good ideas back.
And that's really what these are. Just it's almost like a study session, so to speak, in these different areas of the student demographic. How would you say that? The demographics of that student. These are groups that have a particular interest in making sure that these students thrive in any setting. So that's why I think it's important.
And just fiscally, the dues for regular members are $75 annually. So it's not gonna.
Yeah, and I try to keep up with this, but I think it would just be good if the whole board was more involved in it. So.
Yeah, I mean, it would be ideal if like the whole board could join, could join all of them, but I am willing to do either the National Black Council or the National American Indian Alaska Native Council. Does anybody else have any preference?
I'm willing to do any of them. Not all of them.
One of them. Sure.
All right.
And then some of, obviously these groups also work together, so if they're not as separate as, as they're written on paper, they'll do a lot of work together because obviously the work overlaps. But it's just good to, have that, like I say, it's like having a study group in a particular area. So.
And has the board ever done this before?
No, I've always done it on my own, but I just thought it would be a good opportunity to bring it back to the whole board to see if we can, especially as our demographics is changing, I think it's good for the whole board to stay, have professional development in how to better serve a diverse community so that we're not so narrow in our thinking and how we're making decisions. It's just really good exposure for us. And, as we talk about diversity and inclusion, we have a diversity and inclusion committee. Just understanding what that means and understanding and knowing what's happening out there in the greater world with these groups, I think only will make our district stronger.
Okay, I would be interested in joining the National Black Council. Kind of lines up with some work that I've done in my volunteer work with tutoring and mentoring refugees and in Chicago, and it's just of interest to me, so I would be willing to do that.
Okay. What about you, Lizzie? Don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
What'd you pick?
I was just clicking through Cube.
Now, CUBE is one of those organizations that we can all join
Oh.
just collectively. It's the other three that were individual memberships.
I don't know yet.
So just think about it. Don't feel like you have to choose tonight.
So what'd you pick?
So
I'm
just
gonna
for
join all of
direction,
them.
Do you want, for direction, you want the whole board for CUBE to
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, I think so.
And then so far, I have Joe for the National Hispanic Council and Anna for the National Black Council. Okay.
And I'm obviously interested in all of them.
Same for me. Just put me where needed.
Lori, any comments, or don't feel like you have to choose tonight?
Yeah, no, I definitely want to be part of one.
Discuss, kind of discuss it with you guys.
I want to look at each one, see which one, and then obviously we have some people doing certain ones.
Mhm.
But I like this idea, it's really nice.
This is good. This is really good.
Yeah,
We've been saying it for years. It's great that we brought this forward.
yeah, I agree. Okay, well, we will keep moving forward. Do we have any status reports? You guys have all the correspondence in your packet, some that required or some requested responses. Those are in your packets. Let us know if you don't have, let us know if you have any concerns about that, the response. Otherwise, we'll get those sent out after the board meeting. Let's see, in terms of the FOIA request.
There was one FOIA. Gail Newton, Petroleum Traders, requesting 2 invoices per month from your current diesel fuel contract delivered to your current vendor and corresponding bills of landings. They request this every year when we do our fuel bid, and it is something that we have fulfilled.
Okay. Any questions about the FOIA request?
No.
Okay, hearing nothing. Citizen statements. Any citizens left? Nope. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, well, is there a reason to go back into closed session? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call
Third.
vote.
Brianna.
Yes.
Carla.
Aye.
Joe.
Yes.
Lizzie.
Yes.
Renee. Corey.
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.